Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Maya. Today I'm speaking to you from Glasgow, Scotland, United Kingdom. And I'd like to share some tips about being an MC or Master of Ceremony for international events. I will start this video by sharing a story. Not to brag, but I built some sort of a solid career in Indonesia as an MC. It has always been my side job, yet most of the time it paid more than my main job. Back then, I worked as a journalist, and later on, I moved into academia and became a lecturer. But my career as an MC continued alongside my academic work. About 3 years ago, I decided that I needed to pursue a PhD degree in the UK, and when the opportunity finally came for my PhD, I assumed that this would be the end, at least for a long time for my MC career. I believe it would have to be put on pause for several years, or perhaps even come to a complete stop if I decided to extend my studies here. Turned out, it was not the case. At the beginning of my PhD workshop or classes, I was very shy and quiet actually, because I was the new kid on the block. I wasn't sure how to act, what to say. But one day, I was given a chance to present my research proposal in front of my peers, in front of the class. And it went really, really well. Later on, maybe after observing me giving several presentations, one day one of my professors told me that I was gifted. He said that I was a great storyteller and a great presenter. At that moment, I was like super flattered, and it got me thinking, oh, it's still there, I still have the skill. Because sometimes when you use another language, you kind of feel like you are losing yourself or even your talent, but actually you're not. You just need to adapt and get used to the new language. And of course, back in Indonesia, I had already hosted many international events in English. However, it felt quite different doing it here. In a real English-speaking country, you start to feel a bit of imposter syndrome, a small voice in your head whispering that you are not good enough to compete with the locals here, and you tell yourself that even regular people or anyone here might be a better MC than you because they speak English very fluently. It's their native language. Fortunately, after successfully showing what I've got, I've been lucky enough to be given opportunities to host many events here, including university and academic events, social gatherings, and even a wedding ceremony. So, based on my experience, here are some tips on how to be a host for international events or any events that using English. First of all, improve your English speaking skills. It is very important. There is no shortcut. You have to practice all the time. By practice, I mean actually saying things out loud, reading newspaper articles aloud. Speaking is a complicated activity because it involves brain activity as well as your voice and mouth muscle. So you need to train all of them. Do it. Practice. Many times we already knew the correct grammar. It's here. I mean, if we are given a written question, we know which one is past tense, future tense, or present tense. But when we actually speak, it can all disappear because knowing and implementing are two different things. We may know how to pronounce words, but when we actually say it or say them, we fail, we forget, we make mistake. That's why we need to train our brain and muscle together. So, read article, news, social media, everything out loud. Watch movies and repeat what the characters are saying. Talk to your friends, family in English, and do it consistently. So, your English speaking skill will improve. When you have a good English, you'll feel more confident, and that is a very good starting point for being an MC. Secondly, prepare yourself. Being an MC, whether it is in Indonesian or English, requires preparation. We cannot just go out there and see what happens. That's not how it works. So prepare your opening. Write a script on cue card, so when you got nervous, you're safe because you have the script. Also, be mindful of whom you need to greet at the beginning of the event. For most events here, other than royal or state events, the atmosphere is quite laid back actually. People usually call each other by their first name, even in the business or university settings. Titles like professor or doctor are often used once at the beginning, but after that, people usually switch to first names. If you want to be more formal, you can use Mr. or Miss, but remember to follow it with the full name or at least the last name. For example, if the name is John Smith, say Mr. John Smith or Mr. Smith, not Mr. John. In more formal settings, such as addressing officials like presidents, ambassador, or governors, you can use His Excellency or Her Excellency. For lower-ranking officials, you can use the Honorable. However, always confirm this with the event organizer because different countries and contexts have different protocols and hierarchies. Make sure to ask the committee how to pronounce people's name correctly and practice them repeatedly so you don't mispronounce them during the event. Lastly, as usual, once you've prepared and practiced, please be confident. If you're not a native speaker, at some point you might make mistakes, and that is okay. We don't have to be perfect. Actually, perfection is an illusion. No one can truly achieve it. So, whenever you make a mistake, own it, apologize if needed, and move on. Focus on what's next on the program or the next part of the event. Okay, those are my tips. Now, I'd like to give you a short example of being an MC in English, just as a reference for how it might sound. Let's imagine this is a semi-formal cultural exchange event. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Helen Brooks, the Dean of the Faculty of Social Science, Professor Mark Reynolds, esteemed colleagues, honored speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the International Cultural Exchange, Culture, Community, and Conversation. My name is Maya, and I will be your host for this afternoon. Of course, it is a great pleasure to welcome you all and to see so many familiar and new faces gathered here today. We will now begin our program with a short cultural performance that reflects the spirit of cross-cultural exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our cross-cultural dance performance. Once again, please give a big round of applause for our performers. Thank you very much. That was a really lovely performance. Ladies and gentlemen, our next session is a short talk entitled Cultural Exchange in Contemporary Society. It is my pleasure to introduce Professor James Walker from the Department of Media and Communication. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Walker. Professor Walker, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, Professor Walker, for that insightful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a short refreshment break. Refreshments are available in the foyer. Please be back in the hall in 15 minutes as we will continue shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of this afternoon's program, I would like to thank all our speakers, performers, and everyone involved in organizing today's event. And most importantly, thank you to all of you for being here and for your participation. We hope you have enjoyed the event. Have a wonderful afternoon and safe travels home. Bye-bye. Alright, that's all for today. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and continue to support this channel so I can keep sharing public speaking and MC tips with you. Bye-bye. See you on the next video.